Toy Story has always been about one fear: being replaced. But this time, the replacement isn't another toy. It's something far bigger than a playroom, something that doesn't need imagination to survive. That's why Toy Story 5 might be Pixar's most important movie in years. And once you get to the end of this video, you'll fully understand why this ending will hit harder than the third. Let's talk about it. When the trailer dropped, a lot of people had the same reaction. Didn't this franchise already end perfectly with Toy Story 3? And that's a fair question to ask. Toy Story 4 already felt like an epilogue. So why come back again? But here's what stood out to me. This time, it doesn't feel like nostalgia bait. This feels very intentional. There's a very important message to be told here. Because for the first time, this conflict isn't about jealousy between toys. It's about relevance. It's about toys versus technology. And that's not a small idea. Because once you introduce technology into Toy Story, you're not just changing the villain, you're changing the entire message. And this might be the first time Toy Story is fighting something it can't emotionally outgrow. And here's why. At its core, Toy Story has never really been about toys, per se. It's about being needed, feeling forgotten, watching time move forward, and ultimately growing up.
Guarantee it, huh? I don't know, Buzz. What else can I say?
Every movie dealt with change, but the enemy was always manageable. Another toy, a new phase, a new kid, something you could eventually outgrow. But now, the competition isn't just another action figure. It's screens, it's apps, it's endless digital stimulation. And that's a completely different battlefield because you can outgrow a toy, but you can't outgrow the world shifting around you. And when the world shifts, something far deeper and significant shifts with it. And that's the part we don't really talk about. So what actually changed? Here's what shifted. Let's be honest, kids don't play the same as they used to. Imagination used to mean building a world on your bedroom floor. Your room wasn't just a room. It was a battlefield, it was a spaceship, it was a kingdom. It was anything you imagined it to be. And your toys weren't just objects, they were characters, they had personality, they had loyalty, they had meaning. You didn't just use them, you bonded with them, built a connection with them. But when the world shifted, that very same connection shifted with it. Now imagination often lives inside a screen. And this isn't about phones being bad. It's about attention, about connection. And connection takes time. When we were kids, a toy had to earn our imagination. You had to literally sit with it, move it, voice it, build the world around it. But now, the world is already built for you. The stimulation is instant. The dopamine is instant. And when everything is instant, the bond changes. That's what shifted. Not just play, but connection. So if Toy Story 5 really commits to that idea, if it really explores what happens when attention is divided instead of devoted, then this isn't just a sequel, it's commentary. And commentary like that, that's risky. And that's where it gets interesting and a bit sad when you realize the heartbreaking epiphany I'm about to share with you right now. Because if you think about it, this might be the most uncomfortable Toy Story yet. Not because it's sad, not because it's scary, but because it's real.
Extinction! Not again!
Being replaced by another toy is one thing. Being replaced by an entire technological ecosystem, that's existential. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. It's not just your regular "there's a new favorite." It's maybe the world moved on. Maybe the world doesn't need you the same way anymore. And that's a different kind of loss. Because how do you compete with something that never turns off? How do you compete with something designed to win and gatekeep attention? And if Pixar actually leans into that, if they really explore that kind of irrelevance, this might hit adults harder than kids. Not because kids won't necessarily understand it, but because adults already feel it. That slow realization that something you once loved doesn't fit the world the same anymore. That you didn't lose it, the world just sped up. And maybe that's why this one feels different. Because this isn't just about toys fighting technology. It's about relevance, about identity. It's about what an entire generation has lost. About whether something built on imagination can survive in a world built on algorithms. And that's why this one feels heavier, deeper, and more emotional. Because if this is really the final chapter, it's not just the toys saying goodbye. It might be us saying goodbye to them, letting go of that phase, accepting that the world has moved on. Which brings us to Pixar. Pixar hasn't felt untouchable in a while. They've had mid to good films, strong moments, but not that cultural dominance they once had. Not that this defines a generation energy. Toy Story has always been their emotional anchor. The franchise that understood us before we even understood ourselves. So, if they use this franchise to explore something this culturally relevant, they are not just making another sequel, they are trying to prove they still understand us. And that's risky, it's bold. Because if they get it right, this isn't nostalgia, it's reflection. And reflection can be uncomfortable. And here's my biggest takeaway from it. Maybe this movie isn't just about toys fighting tech. Maybe it's about us. Maybe it's about how we grew up. Maybe it's about how childhood feels different now. Toy Story has always asked one question. What happens when you're not needed anymore? But now the question feels bigger. What happens when the world doesn't slow down enough to play? And maybe, just maybe, that says more about us than it does about Pixar. Maybe this isn't about whether the toys survive. Maybe it's about whether we're ready to let them go, or we already have. And that right there is why this ending will cut a lot deeper than the third. Tell me I'm wrong.